Hi Gemini, welcome to your November 2019 Astrology 33 reading. Thank you to those who've liked, viewed, shared, subscribed, and donated to the channel. I appreciate all of that. And for those of you interested in booking a personal reading with me, just check out the description of the video for all the information on that. Alright, so with that out of the way, we have a Celtic cross spread in front of us as always. Got some extra cards that came out there. And we also have 2 oracle cards I pulled and a mudra card. So quite a bit to get to. Let's get started with the main situation. In that position, you guys got Page of Swords. So this represents communication. Sometimes it could be a bit lighthearted communication. I often see it as coming through social media because what I always point out to people is those trees in the background to me almost remind me of that Facebook F. So this could definitely be communication through social media versus in person. And yet and still I feel like whoever is the one doing the communicating might be a little unsure of themselves. The reason I say that is with the page energy, you know, they have that one foot in, one foot out energy going for them. And then if we look at the stance in general, right, the way that they're holding the sword, they don't look very confident with it. And if you think about it, it makes sense. You know, they haven't reached the level of the knight yet, let alone queen or king. So, you know, they're working their way up. So this could be someone who, you know, is building up their confidence to communicate something. Whether it's you or the other person, I'm not 100% sure yet, but that's definitely the theme that I see here. And if we look at what they're looking toward the past position too. So, I mean, this already just sounds like a very generic Mercury retrograde type scenario, right? Where someone from the past wants to come back to communicate something from the past, most likely something that caused an ending. So, yeah. On the surface, it already seems like, you know, okay, this is just par for the course. We have Mercury retrograde in November, here it comes, right? But in the challenger obstacle position, we have the Six of Swords. So, to me, I'm seeing this as 2 different energies. So, one way this could be playing out is that in this dynamic, there's one person who wants to communicate, right, with the Page of Swords energy, and they may have even been the one who caused the ending since, you know, they seem a little unsure of themselves, and then the other person is just ready to move on, you know. Because with that Six of Swords energy, that represents usually moving to calmer waters. Sometimes it can represent travel as well. But with this coming into challenger obstacle position, that's the main vibe I'm picking up on. It's like one person wants to talk about the past, the other person wants to just be done with it and keep moving. So, should be interesting to see how that plays out as far as who's who as we go through reading, but that's definitely the primary dynamic I'm picking up on there. This can be centered around friendship too, since that is a card that represents Aquarius, and that could also be saying maybe you're dealing with an Aquarius or possibly an Aries, but that's the main vibes I'm picking on with that. In the foundation position, we have the Ace of Swords, the Six of Pentacles, and the Eight of Swords. So we have another 6 energy here, which is interesting, like we see that one there. But with the Ace versus the Page, to me they're very much the same energy. Almost to me like in a deck of cards, you play some games where the Ace could be either the 1 or the 11. Same dynamic there. So to me this is more something that's in the idea stage. So like I always say with the Aces, it looks like there's a hand coming out of the cloud. That's what makes me think that it's more an idea as opposed to something actually physically being presented like with the Page energy. So this could just be saying at the foundation, this is something this person's been thinking about communicating, whether it be you or the other person. And maybe it's them saying that they want to restore balance, right? But maybe, again, with that Eight of Swords energy, we could see how the Eight of Swords combined with the Ace of Swords could lead to that Page of Swords dynamic, right? Wanting to communicate, but not sure how exactly to go about it, how exactly to move forward and do so. But to me, this does look like they're addressing that there was some kind of an imbalance in the past, and you know they're looking to restore that balance, but could just be a bit unsure of themselves. So I guess it'll depend on how harsh of an ending it was. I mean, we do see Ten of Swords in the past position here, so probably wasn't too great, right? But that's the theme I'm picking up on so far. So speaking of the past position here, like we do have the Ten of Swords energy and the Temperance card. So this is actually a card of Sagittarius. So some of you could be dealing with the Sagittarius. That's certainly a possibility, especially given it's your opposite sign. But this could also possibly be pointing to the fact that maybe it's a romantic relationship, since that, represents romantic relationships as well. It can just be saying that there was definitely an ending. So again, possibly with the Sagittarius, or maybe just an ending to a romantic relationship for some of you. And again, we see that theme of balance here with the Temperance card. So, I mean, on the surface, it wouldn't make much sense if the relationship was totally balanced and fair, right? That someone would have ended it. So, to me, these two cards together was saying that that was the reason for the ending, because, whoever in the dynamic did end it felt that there was no balance in the connection. And that's the interesting thing, too. People think to themselves with Jupiter going through their seventh, they think, oh, I'm going to find a perfect relationship, everything's going to be amazing. And in some cases, it can play out that way. But in others, if there's a relationship that already is a bit rocky, all Jupiter's really going to do is expand that and point it out to you to the point where you can't ignore it. I think people sometimes downplay the karmic role that Jupiter plays. They just think luck, luck, luck. But, it can be, it could also point out some the bad side of things as well. So that could have been what was going on there. All right, in the present position, we have the Five of Cups. So, for one, actually, this represents the first 10 degrees of Scorpio. So, this can just be saying that, even though I'm posting this before we officially get into November, for those of you who do watch this in November, this can just be pointing to the timeline for some of you. But more importantly, there would also be that feeling as well. So, some of you can be disappointed, or possibly the other person might be disappointed as well that, things turned out the way they did. I'm leaning a little more that it might be you guys that are actually disappointed, and it might be that you guys were the ones who ended things. So I don't know. It could play out either way, but there definitely seems to be some disappointment. The Five of Cups energy is that energy where, they're not quite ready to move on from something. So, and maybe that's what the Page of Swords with the Six of Swords is pointing to as well, saying that, the challenge is to move on, but maybe someone's not quite ready to do so because they keep looking back at the past, right? So for some of you, it could even be where someone ended something and now they regret the fact that they ended it. That's probably a little less likely, but it's at least possible given the combination of all these cards we have here. But yeah, this is definitely what I see. Now, with that Two of Cups energy, there is always that message there that, okay, not all is lost, right? And with the gray neutral background, too, to me, that's saying it represents that you have a choice. It's like you could dwell on the bad things that, what's already been lost, or you could actually turn around and embrace what you have left. So something to keep in mind there. It's not a totally black background like we see with the Ten of Swords, for example. It's not this bright yellow background or blue background either. It's just a gray background saying, hey, you could stay in this position looking at the spilled cups for as long as you want, or you could turn around, start to move forward and look at the two that are still standing and, pick yourself up in that regard. And I know it's easier said than done, just telling you how the energy of the card plays out for me. All right, and in your future position, we have the Queen of Pentacles, the King of Pentacles, and the Two of Pentacles. So this is an interesting combination of cards here too, because this can't even just be pointing to something around your work life as well. The reason I say that is because you are going to have a lot of energy going on in the sign of Scorpio, which is your sixth house, and we have the Queen, the King, and then the Two of Pentacles. So to me, that represents there's probably some growth in your area of finances, moving from the Queen to the King. But then this could just be saying that, okay, well, you might work very hard to get there, but are you going to have any time to enjoy it, right? This person has those two pentacles, but obviously it doesn't look like they could do anything with them with the way they're currently handling them, right? So that's one way that those two cards could be playing out, saying that, you might overwork yourself and you might get that level of success, but it could just be saying, well, what good would it be if you can't actually enjoy it, right? So that could be one way that it's playing out. Some of you, this can just be pointing to maybe some of you recently picked up a second source of income, and maybe it has been growing your finances, but the difficulty is, okay, well, you don't have time for much else now, right? You're working your main job and then your second job, and it's giving you that growth that you wanted, but now what, right? You could feel a little bit stuck, especially because at the bottom of the deck, too, we have the Page of Pentacles. And what I always point out about this page in particular is that the object actually seems just out of your reach. Like the Page of Swords, like I said, the person's stance doesn't seem all that confident, but at least they actually possess the sword, Here we see the Page of Pentacles. It looks like the Pentacles just out of their reach. So you might have felt like, you weren't where you wanted to be financially. So maybe you started to really, really dig in your work life, and maybe it's gotten you some success, but now it's like, okay, well, I don't have time for anything else. So maybe now you're reconsidering, like maybe you had all these plans for what you would do with your money, right? Now you're like, great, I have it, but now I don't have time for anything else. So that could be one way that's playing out for you guys. Trying to think if anything else comes to mind. And that could even be what could bring this about for you guys too, could be the full moon in Taurus. Because you can have a full moon in Taurus around the middle of November, and it's actually going to be connecting with some planets in the sign of Capricorn, and this is a Capricorn energy. So that could be showing you, okay, well, where have you overdone it, possibly, right? Where have you been getting in your own way? Because the full moon in your 12th house can illuminate some ways you might get in your own way. And around finances, it could just be saying that, okay, maybe you've tried to be a bit too controlling and too on top of your finances and overworking with all that Capricorn energy, right? And now the downside of that is, okay, well, you got what you thought you wanted, but is it really getting you what you want, right? In the position of your energy in the situation, we have the Emperor. So this is another card to me that indicates that this could definitely be around finances for some of you. And it might be separate from this first issue we were looking at, but maybe even that's what it was about too, though, where maybe some of you were hesitant to communicate to someone, let's say a boss, right, that you don't feel you're being paid what you deserve for your work, right? So maybe rather than confront them about it, you just decide, you know what, I'm going to pick up this second source of income. So yeah, it got you the money you wanted, but maybe had you just spoken to your boss about the fact that you thought you were being underpaid, maybe you would have gotten a raise, right? That's one way it could be playing out. So maybe that's saying that that's why this is a challenge. It's like rather than just sweep it under the rug, maybe you actually need to speak up and let them know the situation. Or it could just even be saying that some of you might have even left the job altogether. Like, okay, well, I'm not getting what I want. And now maybe you're in a new job, but maybe because you're new, you're working a ton of hours, so you like don't have any time to enjoy anything else. That's some of the ways that this could be playing out. But in general, on the one hand, this can just be pointing to the fact that, yeah, maybe you're very much in control. Maybe this is even pointing to the fact that some of you got some kind of a promotion. Maybe now you're a boss, right? All right, you worked really hard to get there, now you're boss. But, is that really are you content with that? Because what I always point out to people love to refer to the Emperor as the divine masculine energy. I don't necessarily vibe with that as far as if versus, let's say, the Hierophant. That makes a lot more sense. Because if you look at the Emperor and you think about what an Emperor is about, they always want more. You know what I mean? Emperor and Empress, same thing, where they just want to go get more and more and more. The Emperor doesn't say, oh, cool, I run this country, I'm happy with that. They say, all right, yeah, having this country's cool, but I want another country, and I want to run another country. And then they keep going and going and going, and they're never satisfied with what they have. So that could be the downside of the Emperor energy, obviously. So something to be mindful of there. In the environment position, we have the Sun. So this could be playing out a few different ways. This can just be saying that maybe the environment is bringing out of you, maybe it's encouraging you to get out and have some fun. Right now, with the Emperor energy, you might not quite be in that mode right now, but I feel like that could be the way it's playing out for some of you. For others of you, going back to that original scenario we were talking about, where there could be someone who, there could have been an ending between you and another person. Maybe now they're coming back around. I have a feeling that this is what comes to my mind when I'm looking at this card. This would be the type of person that would come back in and try to act like nothing happened at all. You know what I mean? Like, hey, how you doing? Just totally trying to sweep it under the rug. And that could be that Page of Swords energy, whereas you're on that Six of Swords, like, yeah, no. Especially with the Emperor coming up here, like, yeah, I remember you, all right. You know what I mean? Like, you have anything to say for yourself, So this could be that type of person that rather than confront an issue, they'll just like let time pass and see, be like, all right, cool. Maybe I'll just stick my head back in and see if everything's cool now. And maybe that could definitely be pointing to that Page of Swords energy there, where you're the type that's like, all right, let me see if it's cool for me to come back and talk to Gemini now, or and you could really be like, yeah, I'm not really having that, So you could just be expecting a little bit more from them. Now, what I will say is something to keep in mind there is with the Page of Swords and the Sun energy, and given that they're both in the upright as well, if that is the way it plays out for some of you, I do feel like the person most likely means well, but, maybe they're just really a bit oblivious to to how to handle situations like that, So something to keep in mind there as far as, maybe not, at least trying not to rip their heads off, but like let them say what they have to say, and maybe, let them know calmly. Maybe that's what the Six of Swords energy is about. Calmly let them know, like, yeah, it's cool that you came back around, but I'm good, It's because between whatever caused the ending for you guys in the first place, and then them coming back in that energy, acting like nothing happened, might just annoy you even more to where you're like, it might seal it in your mind, like, yeah, I'm definitely done with this person. But it could just be saying, keep in mind that this is just how they are. Maybe a little less mature than you would like in that regard, but keep that in mind as well when you're, declining their offer, basically. If that makes sense. All right. In the hopes or fears position, we have the Ace of Wands. So yeah, this could just represent that you're just ready to make a new start in some way, shape, or form. And this could be what all that's around. Like we said, you're looking at that Ten of Swords, or the other person is disappointment. So I don't feel like you were happy that there was an ending, but this could just be saying that now you're ready to go, ready to move forward, ready to shift gears. It looks like you did spend some time disappointed with it. Obviously, the Ten of Swords is not a good energy. And it might have been one of those things where if this was a romance, maybe it ended up, you know, leading to you throwing a lot of your energy into your work life, and maybe that's gotten you some progress there, So maybe that's the silver lining of it, right? But maybe now you have to come back down and find that balance too. Like, okay, whatever this was back here fueled me to, improve my finances, but now, maybe I need to take a break from that as well, So maybe you're looking for a reset there in that regard. And this can represent the other person too, saying that they're hoping to have a fresh start with you. But, I don't know. We'll see if that plays out for you guys or not. Kind of picking up on for most of you, probably not. You probably wouldn't start things up with them again, but you never know, I suppose. And then in the outcome position, we have the Four of Cups, the Three of Swords, and the Knight of Wands. So this is an interesting one here too, because this combination of cards, the Four of Cups, I always say is a bit of a frustrating energy to me, because it's one of those things where we could clearly look at the person and see that they're not happy with the cups that they were already offered, right? And there's just more and more coming, but yet they're not, going out to go after what they do want, right? They're just sitting there and they're just going to let the cups keep piling up, rather than say, yeah, I don't want any of these, right? Or just go after what they do want. So that's a bit of a frustrating energy. And then with the Three of Swords, that could be playing out a couple of different ways, which is to say that maybe there are offers coming in for you, right? Maybe that sun energy is just saying that you're in the spotlight in some way, but you're not happy with those offers because maybe you're still going through a heartbreak of some sort, right? And then maybe this is saying then if that's the case, then you would need to actually just get up and take action. So that could be what's in mind there. Now, another way this could be playing out, especially for those of you who were dealing with the Sagittarius, since, like I said, there was that Sagittarius energy in the past with the Ten of Swords. This can just be saying that maybe this is them coming back around, trying to make offers to you, right? And maybe they're going through this experience because you're turning them down, right? Like, yeah, I'm good with that. And then they just end up leaving. So it could be one of those true retrograde things where the person comes back around for the retrograde, right? They don't get the response they want, then poof, they're out again. So that could be the way that this is playing out as well. So it could play out a couple of ways. Like I said, it could be for some of you telling you to take action. It's like, okay, well, if you're not happy with what you're getting, right? Because you're still going through something, then, take action. Go after what you do want, right? Or at least express what you want. So that could be how that's playing out there. I'm trying to see if anything else comes to mind with these cards. Not really, I think that's about it. But we'll see what the Oracle cards add to the mix. Alright, so first we have Time to Go. There's the artwork, and the number is 45. It says endings, completion, walking away from something because there is nothing else to learn or experience. The Oracle's message: you are at the end of one journey and have not yet begun the next. This is the moment to bless your experience thus far. Take stock of what you've learned. It's time to move on to new experiences and a new way of being. There is nothing left for you to do, be, or experience in your present circumstances. Take the risk and move on, even if you need to be in transition for a time. Your destiny is calling you. So definitely an interesting message there. And then, that makes me think of what I was saying for those of you, maybe you did take on a second job, and maybe it's even saying that for some of you might be encouraged to take on that second job as your full-time thing, or at least to say walk away from one, and maybe that's what it is. You're still kind of in the day job, but you're starting a second job, and maybe you're like super busy because of that, but could just be saying, all right, well, you might need to leave one of those behind, right? And maybe one of them leads you to some kind of fulfillment with the sun energy in the environment, saying that, one of them might actually make you happy. And it could just be saying, all right, let's say it's just a generic example. Maybe you're like some kind of a boss at your current job, right? But for whatever reason, you needed to take on a second source of income, and this one, maybe you don't make as much money, but you actually really enjoy it. So it could just be saying that you're encouraged to kind of go towards that path a little bit more. All right, the relationship message says it's over. At the very least, the form this relationship has taken is no longer of service to you or the other person. This is a time of letting go, of knowing that the journey has come to its conclusion. That doesn't mean anything is lost. Although this card could speak to a breakup, drifting apart, or the end of a soul contract, it is more about release than destruction. Remember the saying, if you love something, let it go. If it comes back, it's yours. If not, it never was. Endings are always a sign of new beginnings. If you want something deeper, walk away. So that played out interesting to me in a few different ways too, as far as remember what I was saying as far as with the Page of Swords energy and the Sun energy, given that they both came up in the upright too, I do feel like the person means well, but maybe they're just not at that maturity level to realize, oh, if you mess something up, you don't just hide for a while and then pop your head back in to see, hey, is everything good? You actually need to address the issue in order for the relationships to succeed. So, like what I was saying there is, I was saying at least try not to rip their heads off, because I do think they mean well. They just might need to learn some things in that regard. So if that's what you're dealing with, could just be saying it's about release, right? If you love something, let it go. If it comes back, it's yours. As far as maybe they just need to grow a little more, and then maybe somewhere down the line it could work, right? That could be how it's playing out for some of you. And then if you want something deeper, walk away as well. To me, that's almost the same message as far as if it's just someone that isn't at the maturity level you're hoping for, because we do see, obviously, it looks like a big age difference between these two cards. I obviously don't think that's actually what's going on, but just more symbolically saying that maturity levels, you might feel like you're dealing with someone that's a lot less mature, and it's saying if you want something deeper, walk away. So hopefully you guys got something from that. The prosperity message says this message is clear. The path you've been on with your work, creative projects, and business alliances has come to an end. You will not find the success you desire by continuing with what is now in front of you. This is an auspicious sign because there is no choice that will benefit you other than risking stepping into the unknown. It is time to walk towards something new. This card also pertains to the more neutral concept of completion. You've finished your task and can rest assured that this ending will open up a powerful new avenue of opportunity, even better than any you can imagine. You have done all you can, now trust that Spirit keeps the plan moving forward. Fortune requires you to conclude this chapter of your life, and remember that when you close one door, another opens. So it's interesting there what it says, where'd it go? Oh, it says completion. You finished your task and can rest assured that this ending will open up rather a powerful new avenue of opportunity. Maybe that's what I was seeing there with the queen, the king, right? Moving up from the queen to the king, and then the two of pentacles. It's like, all right, you reached the top of one level. Now you might, be starting something new. That could be what that two of pentacles is pointing to in that regard. And then maybe that's also what the Emperor and the Sun is saying, right? The Emperor's like, obviously they look like they've achieved a lot, whereas the Sun, we see a child. So it could just be saying that you might be hitting the reset in some way. And for a lot of you, I feel like that's probably what you wanted anyway, with the Ace of Wands energy and the hopes or fears. And maybe for some of you, it could have played out that this is a fear. Maybe you fear starting something new. So could play out both ways, I suppose. Well, hopefully you guys got some from that. And lastly, we have Hawk Spirit. It says, let Spirit be your guide. This is from the Spirit Animal Oracle, by the way. There's the artwork, and the number is 32. All right, let's see what this has to say. Okay, it says, flying high above the landscape, the hawk sees both the big picture and the small details, observes the rain and the pond as well as the cloud, and doesn't miss anything. When Hawk Spirit arrives, you are called to pay close attention to messages from Spirit that can appear anywhere in any form. Listen to your intuition and keep your eyes open for synchronicities, the meaningful coincidences. Hawk Spirit asks you not to dismiss the signs that Spirit is sending to guide you. Lately, have you been hearing the same word or song, or coming across the same symbol here, there, and in the strangest places? Perhaps you hear a song on the radio with just the right lyric pertaining to your query, or you begin to notice uncanny billboards, license plates, or other places where repetitive numbers or words show up for you to notice. Pay attention to the animals that appear for you and connect with their symbolism. Spirit wants to communicate and reaches out again and again. When Hawk Spirit appears, it's a sign to listen. So, pretty solid message there. Hopefully you guys got something from that as well. Alright, and finally we'll move on to your mudra card for this month. So the mudra you guys got is the Vajra mudra, excuse me. There's the actual mudra itself. And the keyword for it is indestructibility. So definitely reminds you of the Emperor vibes there, but we just let this focus. You can see what the card has to say. Alright. And that way, if you guys want to take a screenshot or pause it, you can to read what it has to say. But it says, aligns and opens the central channel, directs energy upward to the higher centers in the body, improves concentration, and strengthens willpower. So if that sounds like something you think would be beneficial for you guys, just check out the description of the video where I'll leave the name for that as well. We'll wrap up there, and I'll see you all next month. All right, bye.